Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scary Bad Reviews, and this is my intro. So, it is October 16th. Today I rewatched a movie that I've seen a good couple times. I did a very minor review of it in the past, the very first year that I did 31 Days of Halloween. But I don't think I was able to go into enough detail at the time. I really didn't want to put too much into writing out the reviews at the time on Instagram, and so I think that this movie definitely deserved for me to go back and revisit it now that I have a better means to be able to describe a lot of the parts of the movie that I enjoy and a lot of aspects of the movie itself. So I went back and rewatched the Babadook. It's 2014 movie that's kind of part of that brief indie wave that I talked about that It Follows kind of fall under as well, where a lot of really good independent horror movies were coming out at the time. This one comes to us, I believe, from Australia. Basic plot synopsis is that there is a mother and her son. They've lost the father in the family. Things are not going as they should. The son's acting out. The mother's having difficulties at work. And there's the introduction of this storybook that starts causing problems within the family. And I'm probably going to leave it there. I don't want to go too far into it, but just to not spoil it. But there is, I will say that in the book there is a monster, and that monster is the antagonist of the movie. And this movie's kind of polarizing because as the more I've talked about it and the more I've talked to other people about it, I'm very surprised at how many people didn't like this movie. I personally love the movie, and the first time I watched it, I was absolutely in shock at how good of a movie I thought it was. And the more I talk to other people who listen to who watch horror movies and stuff like that, I was very surprised at how many people don't like this movie. There's a lot of things in it that are difficult about it after rewatching it a couple times. It is a very limited cast. It is a very limited setting. The movie can be... The premises that they're trying to display in the movie, if you don't appreciate how they're written and how they're performed, they do seem very annoying. A lot of the premise of the movie is based upon this faulty relationship between a son and his mother, and both of them going crazy, but one at a time. So at one point, the son is going insane because of the presence of this monster, the Babadook, and the mother is being completely strung out over it, and then it kind of flip-flops, and now the mother is being haunted and almost possessed by this thing, and the son is having to deal with the consequences of it. And so a lot of the movie is not necessarily the monster directly attacking these two, but the influences of the monster causing them to attack each other. It's a very dynamic relationship. It's a very fall into insanity. Fall of man is the plot theme that I usually try to refer to it as, where it's just an on-screen portrayal of someone falling into the deepest, pits of insanity. Kind of like Jack Torrance in The Shining. I mean, it's a true fall of man scene that you're given. And it's definitely seen visually and not just seen by their actions. I mean, you can see the characters falling apart before your eyes. You can hear the changes in their voices. You can see, discernible actions and everything. I definitely think they did a good job at piecing together different events happening in their lives to cause them to go insane on top of this monster being around. But I can definitely see how some of the actions that these characters take while they're either going insane or reacting to someone else going insane can be annoying. Because for a majority of the movie, the little boy, the son, screams a lot. He's very hyper. He's very all over the place. Like I said before, the movie starts off with this descriptions of his behavioral issues. But he's a very off-the-wall kid, just all over the place. And so most of the movie, his character can be very difficult to deal with. Just seeing this, 10 and 11-year-old boy just running all over the place, screaming all the time, doing whatever the hell he wants to. And later on it is somewhat difficult to watch the mother get upset with him and angry with him and treat him in certain ways because of different things, and mainly because of the Babadook possessing her and driving her crazy and making her do these things. But it's still very difficult to see happen. So I absolutely love that idea of their portrayals of people falling into insanity. I think both of the actors do a great job of especially working with each other with a very limited cast. I mean, outside of the mother and the son, there are maybe 5 other characters with actual names. I mean, there's not very much. There's not very much to it. I mean, it's mainly just showing the son, the mom, and the Babadook inside the house, and that's where a majority of the movie takes place. I would like to give props to the design of the Babadook because it's very fitting to the source material of where the monster comes from, and that the monster comes from the storybook within the movie. I definitely think that they gave it a design that looks very storybook-ish. From what pictures we do get and what art we do get from the production company, we never get an actual image of the Babadook itself within the movie, like existing outside of the storybook. That's another thing that makes people very upset as well, and that's what makes people upset with Blair Witch Project and with Cloverfield and with a lot of other horror movies, is just the exploitation of the fear of the unknown and just the constant idea that you're never going to be able to actually see what's attacking you. That's another negative that a lot of people have on the movie, and that it kind of just plays into this same boring trope that makes it feel like the production company is too lazy to put a real monster in front of you. I don't think that's what this movie does. I think this movie has a monster, and they're making it a point that this monster almost doesn't know itself. There's definitely an air of doubt within certain things that happen within the movie, and there's definitely an air of a child storybook monster. It's not something that's seasoned. It's not something that's experienced. This is something that doesn't know exactly what it's doing all the time. But that kind of leads into a spoiler, so I don't want to talk about that. That kind of leads into the end of the movie, and I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I thoroughly enjoy this movie. I think that there's a lot of good from it. I think it came out of nowhere when it started dropping in theaters. It had a very limited release in the United States. The Alamo Drafthouse in Winchester was lucky enough to get it and have a couple showings of it, and so I went and saw it, and it was actually pretty cool to see in theaters. But I think that this movie is definitely an example of just differing tastes and opinions, because I gave this movie an 8 out of 10. I think the chemistry between the characters, the portrayals in the movie, the writing of how they fall apart, I think it's all done very well. I think the introduction of the monster to help them fall apart is good, and that it kind of, adds into this family dynamic. I don't give it a higher rating because of some of the things that people say they don't like the movie for. I don't like the fact that we don't get a full look at the Babadook. I understand what they were going for, and I don't think it was lazy on their part, but I would have liked to see more of it if they were going to put such an emphasis on it being a monster. I definitely see where people come from, and that it can be a difficult movie to watch because of how annoying certain parts of it get. But that's not how I felt when I first watched it. I had to rewatch it and kind of dissect and pick apart certain scenes and say, okay, now I understand what people are saying. But that wasn't my original feeling, and I still hold true to my original feeling that this is a good movie. If you guys are looking for a good movie to watch around Halloween, maybe something a little different, I definitely recommend it. Also, with this movie, there's one thing that I had brought up to somebody to Zach, my sister's fiance Zach, when talking to him about this movie. There's all of a sudden this I don't know where it came from within pop culture, specifically on social media. There's this idea that the Babadook is an LGBTQ icon, a celebrity for them. It's really weird. If you look it up on the internet, there's all kind of pictures and stuff, people dressing up as it at pride parades, and people drawing pictures of it with rainbow stuff on. And I'm not at all against that. I don't at all have a problem with that. The only thing that comes from it is confusion because I just don't know where within the movie they saw that the creature would have been any of that. But I mean, hey, to suit yourself, I think it is kind of funny. I do love seeing the pictures of it because it definitely throws a lot of people off. And hey, if they want to claim it, they can claim it. It's totally cool. Like I don't think anybody's going to be upset by that fact. So the movie itself is good. It's an 8 out of 10. I definitely recommend it to a lot of horror fans. And yeah, it was good to rewatch it and good to be able to talk about it in a longer, more detailed format. So that's it for the Babadook. Tomorrow, I currently had planned to watch. Let me check my calendar. I currently have planned tomorrow The Ritual. The Ritual is definitely a movie that I'm going to enjoy talking about for a while. The Ritual was a movie that was the rights for it were bought out from a UK production company at the beginning of the year, and Netflix put it out for mass distribution. I love every second of this movie, and I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about it. So I'm very excited to be able to come back tomorrow and go through it with you. Like always, if you have a suggestion for a new monster movie for the rest of the month, please leave a comment, please message me, please let me know, and thank you for listening.